What have you seen genuinely crappy people do that they thought was perfectly acceptable? Cheat on their husband with the man that was sent to prison for physical abuse, said couple's daughter. A lot of dogs over where I live froze to death over the recent blizzard because their owners left them outside in the chilling winds and snowstorms. Their reasoning: I don't want that wet dog smell inside my house. I wish people like this could get banned from ever having pets. In the UK you can be banned from owning pets for crap like this. An ex-friend thought that she was justified to cheat on her boyfriend because she was paranoid and thought, what if he's fricking someone, when he was doing exactly what he said he was studying. He had a double major he was completing, and this B cheated because he was working so hard. Then, because she told me and I gave her crap, she offered to make love to me too so I wouldn't tell him. I'm a guy. Well, I told him and refused her offer. Well done. You helped him dodge a massive bullet. I worked in retail sales. A guy used to come in all the time. He was a veteran and clearly suffering from dementia or PTSD and always had a caseworker with him. He would come in and look for gifts for his mom and someone would always try to talk him into signing up for credit. Luckily, his caretaker would look out for him and talk him out of it. One day he came in and said the program that paid for his caseworker was slashed in funding and he only had her 2 days a week instead of 5. But it was Monday and he goes to the mall on Mondays. A sales associate not only signed him up for credit, but maxed out his 5k balance knowing full well he didn't have the faculty to pay the bill. She made her sales goal that year and got a trip to Florida. Whoa, this blew up. Thanks for the medal. A few responses to some questions. I reported this to HR. Nothing happened. I talked to our regional manager and when she approached the salesperson she claimed not to know the situation. She did. This guy came in every Monday. We knew. Also, she was a manager and top salesperson for over 20 years. She isn't going anywhere. That is so awful. I don't understand how some people can be such horrible shitbags. Always blaming others and not taking responsibility. Using a disposable barbecue on the beach and leaving it half buried in the sand for someone to step on with their bare feet. Happens all the time on the beach near me. Insult their children when they don't excel at X activity. Visiting back home and ended up listening to my sister beg my mom not to get mad because she had a B+. My wife told my sister how awesome it was that she had all A's and a B. Mom immediately says it's not good at all and reams my sister. It's super frustrating. Treat the elderly in nursing homes badly. I work at a nursing home, and while I have a lot of awesome co-workers who are very good at their job, I also have a lot of trashy ones. To give an example, I one time overheard one of the patients say to a co-worker that she really needed to go to the toilet. This lady was in a wheelchair and needed help. My co-worker said, "Well, you're wearing a diaper, aren't you? Those can hold up to 8 liters. Just pee already." I was shocked. My co-worker went to have her smoke and I immediately helped the lady in the wheelchair. Yes, she did wear a special tenor pants, but a lot of my co-workers don't seem to understand that these kind of pants are to prevent accidents, not to encourage incontinence. The sad thing is, this kind of things are very hard to prove, especially when the patients have dementia like they do in the nursing home I work at. I have had multiple conversations with the manager about this kind of things, resulting into absolutely nothing done about it. I think the shortage in staff doesn't help with this problem. My grandmother had dementia. My mom went to visit her and she was horrified that she hadn't been bathed and had been sitting in her own feces for 3 days. She also had huge bed sores from sitting for so long. My mom and my uncles tore that place a new butthole. She passed away not long after. Someone's final weeks shouldn't be like that. I worked in the office part of a warehouse. One of the gals that worked with me was super cool, so we ate lunch together every day. One day she goes to get her lunch from the fridge and someone else's lunch falls out. The container hits the floor and the lid pops off, spilling out the food. I was floored and disgusted when she scooped the food back in, put the lid on, and slid it back into the fridge. There was so much nasty in that floor, and when I brought it up she shrugged, saying they wouldn't be upset because they didn't know. I asked around and figured out who the lunch belonged to, told him what happened, and have him a little money to go buy something else to eat. She thought I was crazy for giving a crap. Good job. I would be pretty upset if I ate floor food because no one told me. Say to my wife, "Well, at least my baby will go to heaven." We were at a weekly group session for parents of deceased children. This woman asked my wife how our son died and replied with that when she found out he died of an overdose. Too bad she won't be going there to see her baby. A kid at the high school I graduated from had his friends film him in the bathroom, pulling his pants all the way down to pee like an autistic kid who was in the bathroom at the same time does to make fun of him. While his friends were filming this, he decided it would be funny to pee on the autistic boy and asked to be spanked. He was the kind of kid who looks great on paper, but has the eyes of a cat strangler and is cruel in person. He obviously thought there was nothing wrong with what he did because he laughed and taunted the poor kid the whole time and posted it on social media, which led to him losing a full ride to a state college for swimming and his being expelled from school. Charges were pressed and he's currently awaiting a criminal trial to determine whether or not he'll end up a cracksicle. At least he faced some consequences. Freaking butthole. One of my shittiest ex-friends stayed over with another friend after his parents kicked him out. My friend let him stay rent-free and he complained about everything. Complained about her cats, about not having a key, about not being allowed to stay longer when my friend had enough. He's long gone across the country and out of our lives now, thankfully. If you say something mean cruel to someone you supposedly love and then follow it up with "I didn't mean it," but you do it over and over again, yeah, you really do mean it. I was only joking. A work colleague lets everyone else on the team do the work while he vanishes, or he does the odd bit of work. When someone calls him lazy, his response is that the company pays him for what he knows, not for what he can do. In other words, he picks the jobs he wants to do, which isn't very much. I work in IT, and used to have a 60-ish co-worker that would do that. He turned a storage closet into his office and did frick all for work. And yet, he was the type that constantly said, "This place would fall apart without me." One girl I knew always took help from others in college. Afterwards she wasn't just unthankful, she started talking really badly about the people who helped her and actively made their lives worse. Had a roommate in college who had her entire tuition paid for, $60K a year, by a very wealthy friend's parents. However, all she ever did was complain about how rich and spoiled this friend was. Constantly talked trash behind her back about how much of a lazy princess she was. The fricking audacity. Insulting retail workers or servers. Yes, I'm sure it was 25% off, but the register isn't cooperating. But telling the person that they are a useless human being isn't gonna help the situation. I'm sure something can go wrong in your job that isn't your fault too, and being yelled at isn't gonna make you want to do it faster. I always found that the people who genuinely had a discount product are a bit more understanding. The people who are just trying to scam the company for a cheaper product are the ones that get rude and start the insults. Was serving an extremely rude lady through drive-thru, but since we serve rude customers all the time, I was just acting normal. I hand her drink and then a straw. She proceeds to take the straw out of the paper sleeve and then just toss the sleeve out the window, and then just driving away. Just casual littering. Talk down to others who are blue-collar workers just because they are janitors or such. If I see that, I will go up to them and tell them, because I know the worker can't risk their job. Bullying or being condescending in general is just something I don't tolerate. Working as a bagger in a grocery store, I was bagging a customer's groceries like any other day. When I bagged some raw meat, I noticed my hand was sticky. Looking at it, I had what looked like blood on my hand. Thinking it was the raw meat and the packaging had a cut, I checked it to see if we should get the customer a different package. The customer saw me doing this and smiled, informed me that the package was not damaged, the blood was, in fact, his, as he showed me his hand with a giant open cut on it. After discovering the horror, me and the cashier realized the blood was everywhere, and his wound was still leaking blood onto the ground. The customer laughed the entire time. Similar story, except I work in a jewelry store. I was showing a customer some earrings she ultimately didn't buy. As I put them back, she said, "Don't forget to wash your hands, dearie," before showing me the underside of her fingers, which I previously couldn't see, covered in pus-filled sores. Then she just sauntered out. Cut in line because they're in a hurry, as if their schedule somehow trumps the need to conform to the line. The only time I have found this to be acceptable is at airports if someone's connection was late coming in and they have to change terminals. I have had to skip security lines a few times for this reason and people have been bare understanding. Verbally abusing people who work in retail or food service. Play music or video games on their phones on public transportation with the volume up every god-dang day. It's inescapable. You'd be surprised how many tourists don't bother to walk the 50 feet to the nearest trash can on the beach. Cigarette butts by the hundreds of thousands. Beer bottles. Cans. Dirty diapers. More plastic than you can imagine. It all just goes right on the beach. Someone else will pick it up. Right? Whoa. This blew up. Glad people feel similarly. And many of you have made an excellent point. People who aren't tourists litter too. It's unacceptable to throw your crap on the beach. Regardless of who you are. I'm always at the beach with my dog. I try to fill a dog poop bag with trash before we leave. But while I've got the opportunity, I want to share a story. I love cleaning the beach. No matter how crappy my day has been or what I'm going through, I can go down to the beach and pick up trash. It makes me feel better. It makes me feel like I have an impact on my community, and it's something that nobody can take away from me. If you want to feel like you make a difference, spend an hour cleaning a public place. Make it a routine, then make it a habit. You'll be glad you did. In Vietnam, it's normal to see people throw their garbage in the river. Littering. It really annoys me. If you take care of your environment, then your environment takes care of you. Unfortunately, some people just do not care about living in a dump. They can't even take care of their own property, so there's no expectation that they will care for public property, especially when they feel that it's someone's job to clean that up. I was once on the Nick subway in early February. The train was pretty packed. We got delayed our tunnel and the heat kicked off. This young blonde girl, shivering her butt in the middle of the says, "Oh my god, I am so cold." 5 seconds pass. The same girl shrieks at the top of her lungs. Everyone in the car then watched as the dude behind released her hips and stopped grinding his dong against her butt. Everyone's staring and he says, totally straight-faced, "What?" She said she was cold. Being late. Constantly. Especially for work. I can't leave until my relief gets in. I actually do mind hanging out all day. Believe it or not, I'm ready to go. Block the whole grocery store aisle with absolutely no situational awareness. My mom used to stuff her purse every time we went to a restaurant. I'm talking silverware, salt shakers. Don't even get me started on buffets. She was mentally ill, but she knew it was wrong. Just a master at being able to delude herself into justifying every wrong thing she did. Spreading fake rumors and generally talking crap about other people behind their backs. Many years ago, I worked for a major US cell phone company. One day a woman came in to discuss something about her account. She wasn't unpleasant or anything, but short and to the point, not very conversational. While I'm looking up her information and making some small talk, she just out of nowhere jams her finger up her nose, wriggles it around, and pulls out a small booger. Didn't try to hide it or anything. In full view of everyone in the store. After staring at it for a bit on her finger, she goes ahead and wipes it on the counter, then goes back to talking about her account like nothing happened. I totally stopped what I was doing and just stared at her for a moment, wondering if I had really just seen a grown person be that freaking disgusting. I finished up my business with her as soon as possible, trying not to retch, and she left. I ran to the back and got some cleaning equipment and sprayed the whole counter around where she was to clean it up and disinfect it. To this day I still gag a little when I think about it. No shame or self-awareness whatsoever. Wanting my attention to talk about their problems and emotions, but couldn't care less when I want the same thing in return. They act completely disinterested and respond with generic responses. Well, my nan knows that her son, my dad, is a convicted pedophile. I was one victim up to the age of 9, and it seems that he may have started on me when I was a baby. My nan and dad managed to hide what he is even after he went to jail and was put on the register. My nan used to try and get my dad to hang out with and look after minors. I think it was her overcompensating. She guilt-tripped and manipulated me into trying to forget what my dad had done for the family. She at one point tried to force me to sleep in his bedroom with him. When I put my foot down and stopped seeing him again, I had just become a wheelchair user suddenly. She used this to trap me with him. After I confronted her about this, she said so many horrid things, but one thing that stands out is that I should apparently be grateful for him not going further on me as a child. After this, I stopped seeing her. She told my family that it was because she discovered that I am faking my disability for money. So my whole family hated me. There's a lot more to this, but those are the highlights. I walked in the restroom the other day, and the smell was just awful. There was only one guy there, and he obviously just took a dump. Dude walked over to the sink, looking like he was gonna wash his hands. Instead, he cupped his hands, collected some water and took a nice big gulp and splashed the rest on his face. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I don't know if this works for this one, but my cousin is a delivery driver for DoorDash as a way to get some extra cash while going to school. He posts videos in his Snap story of him stealing food from the orders he's delivering. Like the other night, it was fries from Five Guys. He then proceeds to thank the person ordering the food. He's always been a little more rebellious than his brothers, but I dunno. This is the first real butthole thing I've seen him do. When people go out of their way to be crappy to homeless people, it makes my blood boil. They're already having a hard enough time without your balls. Also, homelessness can happen to anyone. If you can't be compassionate, keep to yourself. People who throw themselves pity parties. I had an ex-friend where she would constantly say crappy things about me and would use insult humor on me, but if I retaliated, she would cry dramatically and would get everyone to crowd around her. I'd then have to deal with stares as if I kicked a puppy the rest of the night. Ugh. Take video photo of homeless people that they were giving money to. Ditto on giving things to poor and or developmentally disabled classmates and filming for karma. I tend to work higher up in companies, and some of the stuff that CEOs and other higher level people do is just absurd because they are so out of touch with reality. You may not realize this, but the highest paid people in the company where you work very likely have different health insurance and benefits than you do. They probably get way better health insurance and double or triple the paid days off that you get. Even though they are aware that you have way less, they still don't really understand what that's like. I saw one of them talking bad about an employee who was at work despite going through treatments for a major illness. He kept saying she was a workaholic and shouldn't be working. I pointed out that she was working because she doesn't have any more days off and she'll get fired and lose her income and her health insurance if she stops showing up. I saw them talking bad about someone else who came back from maternity leave after 2 weeks. I said, yeah, she used up all of her PTO. A lot of people have less than that. They live in a different reality than the people who work for them, and they have no idea most of the time. They genuinely don't understand what it's like to make minimum wage or to struggle. They think that you are able to afford to go on several nice vacations a year on your $10 an hour salary. They don't understand you might not be able to afford a nice wardrobe to wear to work, or that you might not be able to afford to get new glasses. At my going away party for one job, on a Friday, the big boss asked when I started my new job. I replied Monday. She said, you should take a month off to travel or something. I replied, some of us don't work in income brackets where that's an option. I was working at a bar that was in the same complex of several restaurants and entertainment establishments. Tons of staff members from the other businesses would come drink at my place after their shift regularly, and I had a great rapport with pretty much everyone. There was a hostess that worked at an upscale bowling alley lounge across from me. She had been into my bar at least a dozen times, and the layout of my work bar was very basic. It was essentially a giant square with restrooms on one wall. Anyway, this girl come in and starts slutting it up on some of the male servers from a restaurant in the complex. They buy her a bunch of drinks, and I ended up cutting her off because I didn't want anything bad to happen to her. A ton of customers came in right after, so I got slammed as I was the only bartender on duty. Out of the corner of my eye, I see the door to our cold storage room open. There was nobody on duty that would need to go in there, and it's very clearly marked employees only. I finish helping a customer and run to open the storage room. There is the hostess, with her dress hiked up, squatting on something. She had removed the 6-packs from a case of beer, folded the cardboard flaps in, and made herself a makeshift toilet. She pee all over the fricking storage room floor. As I threw her out, she said she was friends with a guy who owned the whole complex and was going to have me fired for being so rude by throwing her out. I just told her she was banned and to have a great night. I didn't make a big stink about it, but apparently word got back to her boss and he came by to talk to me about it. He said he gave her the ultimatum of she could come by and apologize to me or be fired. I never did get an apology from her. That did not go as expected. Leaving their shopping cart anywhere but the cart return. I worked with a guy I really liked until he told me with great pride how he beat his wife into a coma. He was genuinely proud. I thought I was going to retch. A surgeon and the entire staff, myself excepted, spent an entire surgery to fix an inguinal hernia talking about how gross the patient's genital warts were. I kept my mouth shut for a few comments, but after a while started to express annoyance, like come on guys, we're still talking about this? Didn't faze them. They just kept on making jokes and crapping on the person, unconscious, vulnerable, and paying for the privilege. You have been visited by the magical sugar jar Puggo. He'll only share his sweetener if you comment Surga please, Mr. Pupper. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.